Hello and welcome to this new video here on the channel. And the quarterfinals of the Champions League 2023-2024 season has just concluded on Wednesday, and now we know our semi-finals are set for the 30th of April and the 1st of May. It is going to be PSG versus Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid after the conclusion of the games on Tuesday and Wednesday. And here's a recap of what happened, basically a roundup of my thoughts and opinions about the Champions League quarter-final. The first two games, of course, on Tuesday was PSG versus Barcelona. Barcelona hosting PSG actually in the Luis Montoya Stadium, and Dortmund hosting Atletico Madrid at the Signal Iduna Park. PSG managed to turn things around away from home, beat Barcelona 4-1. And qualify to the semi-final. Of course, a crucial point of this game, a big turnaround, was the red card for Ronald Araujo midway through the first half. Barcelona were leading, they led early thanks to Rafinha, and they were looking, I'm not going to say good, PSG were dominating the game in a way, but Barcelona looked decent. Defensively solid, they were pretty stern, they were not exactly giving away any opportunities for PSG to score. PSG had most of the ball, but the red card was definitely the turnaround of the game, although I don't really believe that Barcelona would have necessarily held themselves through without the red card. We see them collapse before. It's not the only bad result that happened for them this season. They lost on their home soil, they lost by 4 goals, they conceded big score lines this season, so it's not exactly a surprise. But the red card, I think, takes most of the responsibility and most of the blame for the loss, because afterwards, I think, particularly in the first half, it was a one-way traffic. They still mounted some offense, they still created some chances, but I think PSG played it smartly in the second leg. Luis Enrique made the right changes, of course, to tactics. He got Hakimi back after being suspended for the first leg due to the yellow card accumulation. He got him in the second leg, and he managed to turn around things pretty drastically in a quite convincing performance from PSG, who I think they changed a lot after that loss against Newcastle United 4-1 in the group stages, and they definitely went on to have a great run in the Champions League, and now they find themselves in the semi-final facing Borussia Dortmund. And speaking of that, Borussia Dortmund, of course, managed to defeat Atletico Madrid 4-2 at the Signal Iduna Park in another scintillating home game for the Schwarz-Gelbe. It was really brilliant, and the scenario was pretty ridiculous as well. Atletico Madrid missed a couple of early chances, then Borussia Dortmund went ahead and led 2-0 by the end of the first half. Then Atletico Madrid equalised, an own goal from Hummels, a second goal from Angel Correa, and they managed to equalise, and things looked pretty bleak for Dortmund. We know how stern Atletico could be, how resilient a defence they could be, how absolutely, rigid, and how frustrating it could be to play against Atletico Madrid. But in the space of 2 minutes, Marcel Sabitzer, and Martin managed to score the third and the fourth goal and gifted Borussia Dortmund a place in the semi-final. The last time a German side was in the semi-final of the competition was 2020, which was the year where Bayern Munich ended up winning the competition, of course. And that was Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund, first time semi-finalists since 2013. The final was in Wembley, and they played Real Madrid in the semi-final of that competition. And they faced Bayern Munich in the final, of course, at Wembley, which transitions us into the Bayern Munich versus Arsenal game. And I really challenged a lot of people on this, and I really butted heads with a lot of people even before the matches were played and the draw was made. I really was adamant that Bayern Munich will go through, because I thought Arsenal do not have enough character in them to really manage this big game occasion, and they didn't look good throughout the campaign necessarily. They lost games in the group stages. They lost against Porto in the first leg of the round of 16. They barely scraped through them with the penalty shootout in the end. And I was proven right, because in the end, Bayern's character managed to overtake Arsenal's quality, and they have really good quality. But overall, the 2 legs, Bayern really delivered 2 very good performances for the situation Bayern are in this season, and definitely overall they've been terrific. They've been absolutely fantastic. The fact that you managed to keep a clean sheet is a surprise these days, considering how Bayern can defend really badly sometimes. The second leg, I think, was tighter than the first leg. There was no real domination from either side, but Bayern picked that moment really well. Joshua Kimmich managed to make it 1-0 for Bayern, and it was enough to get Bayern through to the semi-final. Of course, big results, very needed. At this time, the season I think is already over domestically. Bayer Leverkusen won the league. There's no cup in the horizon. They were eliminated very early. There's Champions League is all what's left to save the season. And save the season is a pretty drastic word when you talk about the Champions League. It's not just a consolation prize, it's the biggest prize. So Bayern Munich would put all the effort now in the basket of the Champions League. Hopefully, by the semi-final, by the time the semi-final rolls around, Bayern Munich will have their full squad, or close to it, really, because Kingsley Coman is injured for the rest of the season. Gnabry still has a couple of weeks to rest, I think, but if, Sonny returns to full fitness, Alphonso Davies is available, Mazraoui is available, and you look at the players that will be available in the semi-final, hopefully Bayern Munich will have a big chance to qualify to the final against Real Madrid, who beat Manchester City away from home on penalties. After the 90 minutes and the extra time ended 1-1, and I wanna gloss over maybe the two games and gloss over the extra time and everything, and I want to talk specifically about the penalties, because is this one of the worst penalty shootouts I ever watched? I think from a Man City perspective, I think it is. They certainly didn't look comfortable, and their choices during the penalty shootouts was really, really bad. That's what I want to start with. Now I want to regress and talk about the game itself. I thought Real Madrid, in general, played a worse game than the 4-0 drubbing of last season. I think Real Madrid, at least in that 4-0, they had flurries of offense. They had stretches of the game where they had the ball and they had the opportunity to score and maybe make things a little bit interesting. In this game, it was way different, and I think Ancelotti was kind of saved by the bell in a way. It's like in boxing where you're starting to get knocked by the other boxer, and the bell saves you and the round ends. That's, I think, how Ancelotti was saved in this one, because his substitutions were a little bit more than eyebrow raising. No pun intended when you talk about Ancelotti, but taking out Vinicius and Rodrigo when you still have a chance to get a counter done. I think City were less effective than last season. Certainly, Erling Haaland looked way worse than last season. I thought some of the general play of City was pretty ineffective and pretty, I would say, futile for most of the game. They were passing the ball sideways for most of the game. 33 shots when only 9 of them on target, and really, they didn't have much of big chances if you think about it. They didn't have like one-on-ones versus the goalkeeper, or an opportunity where they played like 5-6 passes through the middle of the Real Madrid defense, who really had a great block, and they were like scampering and gathering around the ball really well to defend it. I thought Man City were losing the game by the time, as the time was going on, they were losing the game. They were starting to get more frustrated, maybe more tired as well. And they still have two fronts to play on domestically, unlike Real Madrid, who were eliminated from the Cup, and the league is pretty much done and dusted really by this point. The Clasico maybe will be like the sort of like a wrap in the bow on things for Real Madrid. So the game was pretty uncomfortable for Man City at certain points. They tried their best, I would say, for the circumstances of the game, but they couldn't break through Real Madrid. Andre Lunin had a great game. Real Madrid defense in general, I thought they started with a bad quartet at the back. I didn't think that's the best way to start, but definitely they more than held their own. Rudiger, I think big props to him. He had a terrific game. He absolutely put Haaland in his pocket. And again, in general, I think Real Madrid deserve to go through. People will say that football isn't fair and the result isn't fair and stuff like that because City played better. But I think when you miss penalties the way that Bernardo Silva missed the penalty, when you are playing as futile and efficient as you played overall, I don't think you really deserve anything from the game. I don't think you deserve a lot from that game if any. Congratulations, of course, to Real Madrid, and as I mentioned, the semi-finals now are set. Borussia Dortmund versus PSG and Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Bayern Munich will play Real Madrid on the 30th of April in the Allianz Arena, and the 7th of May, the return leg at the Bernabeu. Dortmund will play on the 1st of May against PSG at the Signal Iduna Park, and then they play the Parc des Princes on the 8th of May. Unbelievable semi-finals awaiting us. PSG Dortmund, rematch from their group stage encounters in the group of death, and Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich, arguably, or inarguably, I would say, the biggest game you can have in the Champions League for the 27th and 28th time that game is going to take place in the Champions League and in the semi-final. Of course, the two biggest teams and the two teams with the most semi-finals played in the competition, Real Madrid the 17th time and Bayern Munich with the 13th time. It's going to be a great watch. I think it's going to be a couple of great semi-finals, and hopefully, personally, I would hope that Bayern Munich make it through and we see an all-German final again, like 2013 at Wembley, of course, but football has its own rules, and we will see about them. That's it. That's my 2 cents about the quarterfinal of the Champions League. I hope you enjoy this. I hope, again, we have a great semi-final waiting for us. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, again, I remind you, I'm not posting regularly, but I'll try to post more on the channel as we progress throughout the rest of the season and leading into the Euros. Hopefully, I'll have a structure of regular posting, and I'll be making podcast episodes, hopefully, about the Euros. That's it. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you soon. Goodbye.